Hey folks, TK here again, and welcome to the second of a bunch of videos I'm doing on a speed training event that we've got coming up on the 17th of March 2025. These videos are designed to give you a bit of a sneak peek into what we'll be talking about over the course of that event. If you've read the description, and maybe even if you watched the previous video, you've probably gathered that this speed training event has four sessions. Four sessions which are all based on a four-element model I kind of put together sometime in the last year. That model being the E.A.R.N model. That's an acronym which stands for emotional resonance, association, repetition, and novelty. And these are all things that we know from a neuroscientific perspective that drive learning and make memories sticky. The other thing is we can actually use these to drive engagement in the classroom. So this is a wonderful model that I think that almost all trainers need to know because it gives us both the engagement piece and the learning piece. Now, in the previous video, I shared some stuff around emotional resonance, session number 1. So in this video, I want to share with you a little bit about what we're going to talk about in session number 2, which relates to the A in E.A.R.N, which is association. Now, as you probably gathered, association is a really important, I'm going to put to you, a learning superpower. It's one of those things that if we can associate a new concept with something that the learner already understands, a key adult learning principle, if we can make that connection for them as we're explaining something is much easier to understand. It requires less cognitive resources to make those associations, to classify, if you will, that new information in the right place. So I'm going to give you some insight as to why this is such a powerful tool for trainers, facilitators, presenters, educators to get on top of and to leverage in their classrooms, why it's one you can use to drive engagement as well. And I'm going to give you a couple of tips on how you can use association. Now, we've got a couple of topic areas, but one of them, in fact, the key topic area is going to be around the use of analogy. And you're probably familiar with analogies. That is taking an actual, whatever you happen to be talking about, and comparing it, making a comparison to something that is similar. Now, I'm going to share with you a couple of tips around making or crafting good analogies. I'm going to be using some analogies throughout this program as well. But I would put to you, just at this early stage, there are 3 things that your analogies need in order to be as effective as they can be. The first of those is it needs to be relatable. So any good analogy must be relatable to the audience. There's no point in using an analogy that the audience needs to use a lot of cognitive resources in order to understand. That it has to be relatable to your audience. The second thing is, and I'll give you some examples of where I've seen some terrible analogies used, but the second thing is your analogies need to be easy to understand. Easy to understand. They need to be simple. And the third thing is, and maybe probably the most important, is you need to use consistent wording between the actual and the example that you're using. The key words need to be consistent between those two things so that the brain can see that relationship as quickly as possible. So we'll be talking about that. I'm going to be giving you some tips on how you can do all of those things, as well as a couple of others as well. So that's a little bit about the second session, a bit on association. I hope that's useful, and maybe we'll even see you in the session itself for a bit of a deep dive into some of those concepts. Until then, bye for now.